Is Airbnb worth it in 2025? Hell yes, but it comes with a catch, and there's a few things you need to understand if you're going to dive into short-term rentals. I bought this rental property. It's a lake house. I started renting this place out in October. It's now April, so I've got 6-7 months under my belt. And after that period of time, there's a few things I've kind of picked up on that I want to share with you, because if you're looking at getting into short-term rentals, this can really help you out. So the first thing, and this is pretty obvious, is the condition of the property. The house, the property it sits on, and everything around it. All that stuff is going to have an impact on how much that property is worth and if you can rent it short-term rental. Because if the properties around it look like absolute trash, it's probably not going to draw that many people in. And the condition of the property and the house itself is obviously important, because if it's in a crappy condition, that's a lot of money you're going to have to pour into the property. I know that from experience, because this place was in pretty good condition when I bought it, but it did need a few things. And I found out really quick that the things it needed were going to cost me a substantial amount of money if I was going to hire somebody to come in and do that stuff. But luckily for me, I don't mind doing hard work. I'm no stranger to it. So I decided to do everything myself. Had I not done that, I would have been out tens of thousands of dollars straight out of the gate. But with that said, it is important to know what the property needs going into buying it, because you can also get a discount on the property when you buy it, which is something I also did. There was stuff it needed, like the crawl space needed a vapor barrier. There was a tree out back, right back behind here actually, it needed cut down. It was very, very dangerous. That was also going to cost money. And there was a few other odds and ends that this place needed that I knew was going to cost money. So I was able to negotiate with the seller, and I was able to come in with a cash offer, something that most people don't offer, and get a pretty nice discount. So keep that in mind too. If you do find some stuff it needs, it doesn't necessarily have to be a deal breaker, but if you know for sure that the stuff it needs is going to cost you money, I would definitely try to negotiate with the sellers so that you can get some money knocked off. And something else that's going to be vitally important is the location. I would say location is almost as important as the condition of the place that you're buying. And this is especially true for short-term rentals, because if your location sucks, who's going to want to stay there? And this is something I saw pretty often when I was researching before I bought this place, is that people would buy properties that they intended to rent on Airbnb, but they would buy them in residential neighborhoods. Just properties that really didn't have anything special about the location. And it left me wondering, why in the world would you buy this place thinking that people are going to go stay in the middle of the suburbs? Who would want to do that? And I can totally understand it if it's in a convenient location, like near an airport, or an interstate, or someplace where there's a large traffic of people coming in and out all the time, because people obviously are going to need a place to stay if they're traveling. Or if it's somewhere near amusement parks or local attractions or something like that, it would make sense to have a property in a suburb or in a residential neighborhood near something like that. But if you're just picking a house in a random area and you're expecting people to go out there and stay in it, chances are you're probably not going to have much luck with that. And that's a big reason why I bought this place, is because it's lakefront. It's very centrally located, and that draws a lot of people in. You can rent boats down here. There's a lot of hiking. There's frisbee golf. There's golf courses. There's all kinds of stuff that people can do. So that stuff's going to draw people in. And just the house itself is going to attract people because it's on the water. People want to escape the city, and they want to get out in nature. They want to kick back and relax and let all their stress go. And this is a place where everybody can do that. And that's what I found to be true, because I get people from all over the country that literally come all the way out here just to stay in this cottage, which is mind-boggling to me, because to me, I grew up in this area. It's not really anything super special to me. I do enjoy it, but it's not super special. But I could see for somebody that lives in the city, this is going to be a major attraction, just because it gives you that peace and that connection with nature. And it gives you a place to just kick back, let your worries disappear, and unwind. And as we all know, in this modern society, with everything kind of spiraling out of control around us all the time, that can be very important. So location is important for that aspect, but also the aspect of appreciation. Because again, if you have a house that's just in the middle of a neighborhood and there's nothing special about it, it's very basic, standard American residential area, then the amount that property appreciates is going to trend right along with the rest of the market. If there's bad neighbors around it that kind of trash it up, it's going to appreciate less. If it's a nice neighborhood, it's probably going to appreciate a little bit more. Lakefront properties in general appreciate at a much faster rate and a much higher rate than the rest of the market. So that for me was a huge draw for this property, and a primary reason why I bought it, because I knew that with my money being tied up into this property, even the fact that I paid cash and I did dump, a pretty significant amount of money in this property, I know it's growing. it's working for me. And even if I wasn't renting this out on the side, that money is still growing every single year. So if 5 to 10 years from now I decide to sell this place, I know with 100% certainty that I'm not only going to get my money back, I'm going to get probably quite a doggone bit more. And something else that really ties into that are the amenities and stuff that your property offers. So let's say that you have a property that is in the middle of a basic neighborhood. If you have amenities that make that property attractive, like maybe a swimming pool, or there's something special about that property itself, maybe it looks like a castle or it has some sort of special trait, then that is going to draw more people in. So one of the things about this property that makes it very special and draws people in is the fact that it has a staircase that goes from the house all the way down to the water. And halfway down the staircase, there's also an observation deck, which is kind of out of the frame here, but it's down here by the water. You can sit and just enjoy the peace and quiet and listen to nature and the frogs, and you could fish down here and all that good stuff. So that's a humongous draw for people to come here and, again, kick back, relax, and escape the 9 to 5 daily grind. So a property like this is going to be ideal because it has so many things working for it. You have the centrally located aspect, you have the fact that it's on a lake, it's waterfront, and it also has its own private access to the water, and the fact that it's in a very peaceful neighborhood and it's surrounded by nature. All those things are really going to draw people in, and that's what I've found to be true for this property because it stays booked even throughout the off season. And that brings up another very good point, is you also want to think about, is the property you're looking at based on seasons? So if you have seasonal attractions, like maybe an amusement park that's closed during the winter months, is that going to cut into your profit because nobody's staying there throughout the winter? Or is it in the mountains where it gets snowed in and nobody can access it? For this place in particular, you can access it year round. The lake does draw down through the winter months. Actually, right now it's pretty high because we've had some flooding and stuff. But through the winter, it draws down, but it never goes dry. The lake is still down there year round, so that's going to continue to draw people in. But definitely consider that. And you also want to consider the fact that if your property is seasonal, are you going to make enough throughout the busy season to get you through the off season? Because if your property is not generating enough money during the on season to sustain you through the off season, then by the time the off season's over, you're going to be bleeding money. And at that point, you have to start to weigh it out. Is the property actually even worth keeping? And for me, that probably wouldn't be worth it, because if I'm going to spend money on something that I'm going to have to constantly spend money on, and it's not actually going to work for me and make me money, it doesn't really make sense to have it. And that brings up another really good point, is you have to weigh out how much the property is going to cost you versus how much it's going to generate. So when I bought this property, the people I bought it from were actually short-term renting it while they had it. So I was able to talk to them about how much it generated, about what to expect, during the seasons and stuff like that. And they were very transparent with me, and they gave me the numbers. So I knew buying this property that if I paid cash for it, it was going to generate me quite a bit of money throughout the year. But that is really only the case because I paid cash for it. Now, if I would have financed this property and got like a 15 or a 30-year mortgage, I don't know that I would be generating that much money and actually be cash flowing right now. There's a pretty good chance that I would be maybe making a little, maybe breaking even, but I definitely wouldn't be making as much money as I am now because I'd be paying for that mortgage. I'd be paying the interest on that mortgage and the house payment. So that's something you really have to consider. If you don't have the money and the clout to pay cash for a property, you have to think about how much you're going to be paying on the mortgage versus how much it's going to be making you. It's pretty simple math. If you're able to buy the property outright, obviously that's going to be the best option every single time because you have the most upside. It's going to make you the most money and you don't have to worry about spending money on it. This property in particular, it generates enough money to pay for itself and pay for my primary home, which is also paid for. And that is an amazing thing because I essentially have a free piece of property that is also causing me to have another free piece of property. And I think it goes without saying that is an ideal scenario. Now, granted, this alone is not sustaining my entire lifestyle because I do have other expenses. I still go out and I do things and I experience life. But the fact that this thing pays for itself and pays for my primary home is freaking amazing. So if you're looking at short-term rental, you're looking at buying something to Airbnb, something that's going to make you money and, grow, allow your money to grow for you, think about that stuff. Just consider how much the property is going to cost versus how much it's going to make you. And you could also think about that in the long term. So how much is this property going to appreciate if I wasn't renting it out? And is the amount that it's going to appreciate going to be worth me spending the money on it right now? Because if I hold this property for 5 years, and let's say that over those 5 years, I dump, $20,000, $30,000 in it. If I sell it 5 years from now, am I going to make $50,000 or $60,000? So that's another way that you can look at this. if you don't necessarily plan on short-term renting it, or if you're planning on short-term renting it for a period of time and then flipping it to make more money. So you got to think about these things, weigh it out, and decide if that's going to be worth it for you. And when we're talking about short-term rentals and how much the property is going to generate you versus how much you're going to spend on it, you have to really think about cleaning costs, maintenance costs, all the stuff that comes along with a short-term rental. Because I can tell you from experience, if you own a short-term rental, you own a second home. And with a home comes a lot of maintenance, comes a lot of repair, comes a lot of work. And owning two homes means double the work. And the thing about that is that if you're paying somebody to do that work, then you're going to be bleeding a lot more cash. And that is exactly why I do all the work on this property and my primary home 100% myself, because I don't like bleeding cash. It doesn't jive with me, so I refuse to hire somebody to do work that I can do myself. This hillside, for example, I cleared this entire thing by hand. It sucked. I did it in the middle of August. It was one of the hottest months of the year, but for me to hire somebody to do this, it would have cost me over $1,000, and I simply was not willing to pay that kind of money for something I can do myself. The staircase and stuff that goes down to the water needed some work. There was a section that was kind of busted up, and there were some stairs and stuff that were falling apart, and I rebuilt that myself. By doing that, also saved a substantial amount of money. The yard work, the landscaping, cutting the grass, all that stuff, I do all that myself. And if I didn't do that and I hired somebody to do all that stuff, I can tell you with 100% certainty, I definitely wouldn't be making the amount of money I am on this property today. So that's all the stuff that you have to consider. Where is the property located in relation to where you live? And are you able to go out there and do the stuff yourself? Are you willing to do this stuff yourself? If not, factor that into your expenses, because that is definitely going to be an expense. And at the bare minimum, if you don't have a big yard, or you don't have a hillside to maintain and all that stuff, then you at least have to think about cleaning, because every time somebody checks out, you have to go in there and clean. And if you're doing that yourself, it's going to cost you just a little bit of time and a couple bucks for cleaning supplies initially. But if you're paying somebody to do that, you're going to have to pay them every single time somebody checks out. And if your Airbnb is very busy, you're going to be paying them a lot. So consider that. And keep in mind that if you do decide to do all those things yourself, you're going to need to develop the skills to do all those things. So you have to become the repairman, the maid, the groundskeeper, the grass cutter, the fill in the blank. You're going to need to develop the skills and commit yourself to doing those things. But the great thing about our modern world is that we have information at our fingertips like never before. So you can go online and you can learn pretty much anything that you need to learn to do pretty much anything that you need to do. But like I mentioned before, you have to be willing to do those things. And if you're not willing to do it, you got to pay somebody else to do it. And that's going to eat into your profits. So just more things to keep in mind when we're talking about buying an investment property for short-term rentals. So obviously this doesn't explain all the ins and outs of buying an investment property or renting it out short-term rental. But hopefully this just gives you an idea of some things to look for and some key considerations if you're thinking about taking the leap and investing in something like this. So let me know down below if you got some value out of this, and if you have an investment property that you're currently renting short-term rental, or if you're in the process of getting one or thinking about getting one. Let me know how it's working out for you. I'm sure the information y'all are willing to share is going to help somebody else out, and as a matter of fact, it probably would have helped me out back in the day because I didn't start investing until I was almost 40 years old. And if you want to hear that story, click on this video right here.